watching World News Program live from Algiers. I'm Miriam Zian, and these are the top stories for tonight. On the 33rd day of the U.S. Zionist war on Iran, the Revolutionary Guard announced targeting Zionist military sites with hundreds of missiles. Trump stated that Iran had requested a ceasefire, while China and Pakistan proposed an initiative to restore peace and stability in the region. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard has emphasized that the Strait of Hormuz would not be open to enemies. The International Energy Agency predicts a worsening of oil supply disruptions in April, and the British Prime Minister announced that Britain would host an international meeting on the Strait crisis. And Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf has arrived in Bern, Switzerland, to give new impetus to bilateral relations. Algiers and Belgrade agreed to strengthen bilateral partnership in hydrocarbons, mining and technology, and Air Algérie resumes direct flights between Algiers and Budapest. Hello and welcome back. Iran's Revolutionary Guard announced having launched over 100 heavy missiles, drones, and 200 rockets at what it called U.S. and Zionist targets. In a Wednesday statement, the IRGC said the strikes were part of the 89th wave of the Troop Promise 4 operation, targeting military sites and troop concentrations inside Israel. Iranian state TV reports that areas in northern, eastern, and central Tehran were attacked on Wednesday. It said explosions were heard across those parts of the capital, describing attacks on Tehran without giving further details. Iran's foreign ministry confirmed that Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei is in good health, underlining that his recent absence from public appearances is due to war conditions and security developments, according to state news agency IRNA. The ministry also accused the United States of using diplomacy as a tool to advance its demands or justify the use of force, saying that no one in the world can trust U.S. diplomacy. And Qatar's defense ministry says the country was targeted Wednesday by 3 Iranian cruise missiles, adding that its forces intercepted and destroyed 2 of them. In a statement, the Ministry of Defense said the 3rd missile hit an oil tanker chartered by Qatar Energy in the country's economic waters. Authorities evacuated the 21 crew members with no reported casualties. U.S. President Donald Trump said Wednesday that Iran had requested a ceasefire, adding in a post on Truth Social that he would not consider ending the war until the Strait of Hormuz is reopened. Iran, for its part, denied the claim, calling it false, with Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghai saying that Tehran had made no ceasefire requests and would continue to defend its sovereignty and national interests under any circumstances. U.S. President Donald Trump said the United States could halt its military attacks on Iran within 2 to 3 weeks. Speaking to reporters at the White House, Trump said U.S. forces would leave very soon, but could carry out targeted strikes again if needed. He added that U.S. action made sure Iran does not obtain a nuclear power.
All I have to do is leave Iran, and we'll be doing that very soon, and they'll become tumbling down. And stock prices were up today almost to a record. I would say that within 2 weeks, maybe 3, we're hitting them very hard. Last night we knocked out tremendous amounts of missile-making facilities, as you probably read or wrote.
Asked whether diplomacy with Iran is a precondition to ending what the United States calls Epic Fury Operation, Trump said it is not. He added that Iran is not required to reach an agreement with the United States.
We're negotiating with them right now. They've been, again, we have had regime change. Now, regime change was not one of the things I had as a goal. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons. But we're finishing the job, and I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. But we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that, because we'll hit bridges, and we've hit some. We'll hit some bridges. We've got a couple of nice bridges in mind. But if they come to the table, that'll be good. But it doesn't matter whether they come or not. We've set them back. It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them.
US President Donald Trump said he's seriously considering withdrawing the United States from NATO, citing what he called the allies' failure to support US military action against Iran. In an interview with Britain's Daily Telegraph, he renewed his criticism of the alliance as a paper tiger, adding that he had long had doubts about NATO's credibility, describing his position as part of a broader reassessment of the alliance's role after the war. And British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Wednesday defended NATO, calling it the most effective military alliance the world has ever known. At a press conference in London, Starmer stressed that NATO has guaranteed the security of its members for decades and reaffirmed full commitment to the alliance. This came after repeated criticism from US President Donald Trump, who is in an interview with the Daily Telegraph described NATO as a paper tiger for refusing to join the war against Iran. And U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Washington can see what he called the end line in the war with Iran, now in its fifth week. Speaking to Fox News on Tuesday, Rubio said the end is not today or tomorrow, but it is coming. He added that messages are being exchanged between the USA and Iran, and that a direct meeting between the two sides could take place at some point. Marco Rubio added that Washington will need to reassess its relationship with NATO after the war with Iran ends.
I think there's no doubt, unfortunately, after this conflict is concluded, we are going to have to re-examine that relationship. We're going to have to re-examine the value of NATO and that alliance for our country. Ultimately, that's a decision for the president to make, and he'll have to make it. We're going to finish the job here. As I said, we're very, very close to achieving our objectives on all of these things that I've outlined. But I do think, unfortunately, we are going to have to re-examine whether or not this alliance that has served this country well for a while is still serving that purpose, or is it now become a one-way street where America is simply in a position to defend Europe, but when we need the help of our allies, they're going to deny us basing rights and they're going to deny us overflight?
China and Pakistan have issued a 5-point initiative aimed at restoring peace and stability in the Gulf and Middle East region. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Mao Ning said Wednesday that following talks between their foreign ministers on Tuesday, the plan calls for an immediate halt to hostilities, the start of peace talks as soon as possible, protection of civilian targets and shipping lanes, and upholding the priority of the UN Charter.
Yesterday, Wang Yi, member of the Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee and Minister of Foreign Affairs, held talks with the Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of Pakistan, Dar. They had an in-depth exchange of views on the situation in the Gulf and the Middle East region and reached important consensus. Following the meeting, China and Pakistan issued a 5-point initiative on restoring peace and stability in the Gulf and Middle East region, which can be summed up in 3 words: cessation, talks, and insurance, namely the immediate cessation of hostilities, starting peace talks as soon as possible, ensuring the safety of non-military targets, shipping lanes, and safeguarding the primacy of the United Nations Charter.
The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman added that China remains committed to close cooperation with Pakistan and other relevant parties to contribute constructively to achieving a ceasefire and ending the conflict in the Middle East.
中巴作为全球南方重要国家，
The war in Iran has continued for a month. The spillover effects continue to spread, causing increasingly serious impact on regional and world peace and stability, and producing ever more extensive disruption to global energy supply stability, the smooth functioning of production and supply chains, and world economic development. This does not serve the common interests of regional countries and the international community. As important countries of the global South, China and Pakistan are making rational and justice calls in the hope of promoting greater consensus and building stronger synergy in the international community to contribute to the easing of current tensions and restoring peace and tranquility in the Gulf and Middle East region at an early date. China will continue to maintain close communication with Pakistan and all relevant parties and play a constructive role in promoting a ceasefire and ending the war.
The Algerian Interior Minister Said Sayoud voiced solidarity with Arab states hit by what he called unjustified and unacceptable Iranian attacks amid Middle East tensions. Speaking at the Arab Interior Ministers' Council, he expressed hope the affected countries would recover from the losses and reaffirmed Algeria's long-standing supportive stance towards them.
I would like to extend my sincerest expressions of solidarity to the brotherly Arab countries that have been subjected to unjustified and unacceptable Iranian military attacks in the context of the dangerous military escalation currently unfolding in the Middle East. We offer our heartfelt condolences and sympathies to the families of the victims, our sincere prayers for the speedy recovery of the injured, and our genuine wishes that all our brothers overcome the devastating material losses they have suffered. This position constantly expressed by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, toward his brothers, their Majesties, Excellencies, and Highnesses from the Arab states affected by this escalation, goes beyond temporary or circumstantial considerations and is rooted in a firm and principled commitment.
In the same vein, Mr. Sayoud reminded that, based on its long-standing principles, Algeria always emphasizes the respect of state sovereignty, avoiding interference in their internal affairs, and using dialogue to resolve disputes.
وانطلاقا من مبادئها الثابتة تشدد الجزائر على أهمية احترام سيادة الدول. Based on its established principles, Algeria emphasizes the importance of respecting the sovereignty of states, refraining from interference in their internal affairs, and adopting dialogue as the means to resolve disputes in a way that helps shield our region from the repercussions of conflicts and enhances the prospects for achieving security and stability for our peoples. In this regard, my country is keen to continue its diligent efforts to strengthen joint Arab action, which has become indispensable under the current circumstances, while remaining committed to making a positive contribution to various Arab and international initiatives, supporting security and stability in a manner that ensures sustainable development and the security of our nations.
Also, Iran's Revolutionary Guard said the Strait of Hormuz will not be open to enemies of the Iranian people, dismissing U.S. President Donald Trump's remarks as laughable theater. In a statement, the IRGC emphasized that the strait remains fully and decisively under its naval control. Iran has reiterated its refusal to open the Strait of Hormuz or hold any negotiations on the matter. Parliament Deputy Speaker Ali Nigzad said the strait will not be opened and denied reports that Parliament Speaker Mohammed Bagher Ghalibaf is conducting talks, noting that decisions on war, peace, and negotiations fall under the Supreme Leader's authority.
The Strait of Hormuz will not be reopened. We have not held any negotiations on this matter, nor we will do so. Claims by the enemy that the Speaker of Parliament, Mohammed Bagher Ghalibaf, is engaged in negotiations are baseless and are being promoted to sow discord. Decisions regarding war, peace and negotiations fall under the authority of the Supreme Leader, and no authorization has been issued so far to conduct any negotiations.
The executive director of the International Energy Agency, Fatih Birol, said disruptions to Middle East oil supplies will worsen in April and will impact Europe as the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. In a statement he made on Wednesday, Birol predicted losses in oil supplies similar to March, along with LNG shortages, highlighting the biggest problems in jet fuel and diesel.
And today I can announce that later this week, the Foreign Secretary will host a meeting that brings those.
This came as British Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced that the UK will host a meeting this week with more than 30 countries ready to act to restore and secure maritime transport in the Strait of Hormuz.
And today I can announce that later this week, the Foreign Secretary will host a meeting that brings those nations together for the first time, where we will assess all viable diplomatic and political measures that we can take to restore freedom of navigation, guarantee the safety of trapped ships and seafarers, and resume the movement of vital commodities.
Several people were killed and others injured in Israeli airstrikes across Lebanon. The Lebanese health ministry said Wednesday that the strike on the Al-Janah area in Beirut killed 7 and injured 26. In Homain al-Tahta, 4 civilians from one family were killed and another strike in Mansouri town targeted a motorcycle, killed 2 young men. Hezbollah announced it struck an Israeli force inside a house in Qatari with a guided missile, confirming a hit. The group also shelled an Israeli gathering in the same city and fired rockets at an Israeli position in Taiba. Earlier, Hezbollah said it targeted a Kiryat Shmona for the second time with a rocket salvo and hit the Mount Niria base linked to Myron air operations. Yemeni Houthi forces carried out their 3rd military operation in what they call the Holy Jihad battle, targeting sensitive Israeli sites in southern occupied Palestine with a salvo of ballistic missiles. In a telegram statement Wednesday, military spokesman Yahya Sariya said the operation continues support for resistant fronts in Iran, Iraq, Lebanon, and Palestine.
Our armed forces, with the help of Allah Almighty and in reliance upon Him, carried out the 3rd military operation in the Holy Jihad battle, which targeted with a salvo of ballistic missiles sensitive targets of the Israeli enemy in southern occupied Palestine.
The Houthi military spokesman in Yemen warned of further escalation against what he called the enemy in the coming period until what he described as the aggression ends and the blockade is lifted.
The Yemeni armed forces affirm that the enemy's move toward escalating its aggression, crimes and attacks against Lebanon, Iran and Iraq and Palestine will only drive free and proud Yemen to further escalation in the coming period until the aggression stops and the blockade is lifted.
A general strike prevailed in Palestinian provinces Wednesday, responding to calls from national and Islamic groups in protest of an Israeli law allowing the execution of Palestinian prisoners. Fatah movement said the law will not break Palestinian will or the prisoners' resolve, but will strengthen determination to continue the struggle for freedom and rights. Palestinian ambassador to Algeria, Faiz Abu Aita, said Israel exploited the ongoing Middle East war to pass a law allowing the execution of prisoners through what he called the criminal Knesset.
The Palestinian people are paying the price for every war in this world because this far-right extremist government is exploiting the world's preoccupation with the ongoing war in the Middle East to commit further violations against the Palestinian people. In this moment of global destruction, they are issuing a law to execute Palestinian prisoners, which constitutes a serious and real threat to dozens, if not tens of thousands, of Palestinians held in Israeli prisons. We call on the international community to assume its responsibilities and to treat the Israeli parliament as a terrorist parliament that practices terrorism and encourages the Israeli government and army to carry out further acts of terror.
Entrusted by the President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelnajid Tebboune, Algerian Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf arrived in Bern on Tuesday for an official visit to Switzerland. The visit aims to revitalize Algerian-Swiss relations, during which Attaf will meet Swiss officials to explore ways and means to strengthen bilateral cooperation at the political, economic, and humanitarian levels. Algerian State Minister of Hydrocarbons and Mines, Mohamed Arqab, discussed with the visiting Serbian Minister for International Economic Cooperation, Nenad Popovic, ways to boost economic ties which reflect the strong relations between the two countries. The two sides agreed to strengthen cooperation in energy and mining, explore opportunities in industry, digitization and trade, especially gas marketing, enhance investment technology exchange, and Serbia's expertise in mining and fertilizer production. The national air company Algerian has resumed direct flights between Algiers and Budapest as from Wednesday, after a suspension that lasted several years. Hungarian ambassador to Algiers, Gabor Levente, said April 1, 2026 marks a milestone in Algerian-Hungarian relations, calling the flight's relaunch a result of serious commitments that opens promising opportunities for economic operators in both countries. A Spanish newspaper revealed the collusion of the Makhzen regime authorities with local smugglers with the aim to flood Europe with tons of cannabis, originating from an area supposedly under strict control by the Moroccan army. Usama Ayadi has more details in this report.
The Makhzen regime, known to be the largest producer of cannabis in the region, continues to flood its neighbors with tons of drugs through the borders. This time, Spain has been one of its destinations. The Spanish police dismantled a new tunnel linking Morocco with the city of Ceuta, making it a major gateway for the Moroccan drug smuggling in the region, and flooding Europe with what the Moroccan regime makes best, drugs and the devastation of the human resources of the entire region. The Spanish newspaper The Objective reports that the tunnel was built beneath a Moroccan factory and near a Moroccan military base.
Another drug tunnel has been discovered in the Spanish border region of Ceuta. It was used to smuggle tons of hashish into Spain. Located near the Moroccan side of the border fence, it faces a Moroccan military base that is supposed to be under constant surveillance by the neighboring country's authorities. It was under constant surveillance by the authorities of the neighboring country, but according to investigations by the national police, this posed no obstacle to the criminal organization.
In a video posted by the Spanish police, the tunnel appeared to be a vast multi-level underground tunnel equipped with rails and trolleys used to transport hashish shipments from Morocco to Spain. According to Spanish investigators, the tunnel's design is extremely sophisticated, reaching a depth of 19 meters, and it's used by drug traffickers to weave the threads of transcontinental conspiracy, a conspiracy aimed at striking the old continent and drowning it in a quagmire of hallucinogens and pills.
This is a very important operation that has allowed the national police to dismantle one of the largest cannabis distribution networks in Spain. It is a very significant organization that, while basing its drug trafficking on the discovered drug tunnel, has now arrested the main suspect, who was the responsible of the other tunnel discovered last year.
In front of a military zone lies an underground border city dedicated to smuggling drugs from Morocco. It has become a haven for criminal barons who export poisons with the aim of flooding the region, all while the Moroccan regime turns a blind eye.
And that's a wrap for tonight's news bulletin. Thank you for watching and see you later in our special edition.